yeah, it just doesn't. The system doesn't make sense to me because like even like take any barter, and it's like let's say let's say like the AK-74 SG, you know, the one where it used to be a horse,
Yeah.
which I think they changed it again to make it more expensive. But like all you do is you say, okay, how much does this prapper sell this for? Let's say it's 30K. All right, and then you look at the barter and you say, oh, he wants a horse. Let me look up the horse. How much is the horse in the flea
Yeah.
market? It's very cut and dry,
I think they should
which doesn't really
change.
make good sense.
Personally, I think like if it was up to me, I think
Yeah.
that they should make the barters really good value, like really good value, like
Mhm.
crazy, like insanely good value, but the items should have to be finely made.
Thank you. I feel like that'd be a great system because then it'd be so much for interesting looting. Like you Welcome to ScavTalk, an Escape from Tarkov podcast with a focus on theory crafting, general gameplay updates, and keeping up with the continual development of the game. I'm one of your hosts, Church.
And I am your other host, GigaBeef.
And welcome to the podcast. Woo, more ScavTalk. I see you in chat. Yeah, dude. Jumping into the news, dude, they've added so much new stuff to like the hideout.
They absolutely have.
Changes.
They absolutely have.
What have you seen anything that's been like kind of like, whoa, they added that?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that everybody has noticed that has kind of blown the community up in an epic sense is the fuel. Fuel has exploded in price, and it has now gone completely insane. Can you excuse me for 2 seconds? Literally, like the moment we started. 1 moment.
No problem, dude. Yeah. I really wish I would invest in fuel. Like honestly. Because now I'm like thinking, is it even worth running I used to just run my hideout all the time. So now I'm thinking I probably just cut it off at night. I don't know. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, I can't believe they've added so many new crafts. Like a lot. And it makes me wonder, what are they gonna do? Like are they gonna move away from traders and focus more on like crafting stuff in the hideout? Because they've added like a ton of stuff. Some stuff isn't really that useful. Like I think I saw they added a hemo stat for the med station, and I was just kind of like the craft components for it was like 2 meds and 2 H2Os or something, and I was like, it was really expensive.
Sorry about that. Goodness
That's
me,
all right.
could have been the worst timing of all time.
That's okay, dude. It happens. I was just telling chat, people who are listening that, yeah, is it even worth like running your fuel at night, like your hideout at night?
I mean, I think it depends if you have the Bitcoin farm up or not, right? Like, I mean,
That's true.
If you have the farm up, it probably still is because, I mean, how long does it take with one card these days? I'm not even sure. Is it like 15 hours or something? You know, I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure because this is a bit of an issue, right? Because you'll probably
One
run
card,
through. Yeah,
I think is like 26 hours. I want to say.
Really,
Because
is it that much?
They actually nerfed the farm. It used to be around 24 hours for one card.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was around like 14 hours once you had all 50 in there for one coin.
I thought because it used to be like
but they kind of like
last wipe. It was like way quicker for all the cards. It was like, I thought it was like I thought it was much lower. I thought it was like 6 hours or something for like 50 cards in the last wipe. Whereas now I don't know, but it's kind of like there's quite a extreme diminishing returns on it. So you run out quite quickly. But I guess like one of the issues is if you don't have solar power and you've only got like a few cards in there, I'm not sure anymore. I mean, it's a tough one. It's actually quite tough.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, this is a massive, massive change. Now I don't know whether it's just like a knee-jerk reaction or to Bitcoin
It's
prices
right.
or what. But I mean, literally, like it's a perfect example of like supply and demand in action, which is why it's so
Yeah.
fascinating because all they've done is just change the spawn rate. Like nothing else has changed. And just the fact that there's not as many on there and people are still buying them in the same quantity, it's just up it goes. It's
I mean,
pretty
it's
it's pretty
such
nuts.
a what's the word, the technical term? But it's such a resource that virtually everyone needs.
Yeah,
So when you lower that supply, like demand is just going to go through the roof, which
yeah.
you're seeing. And they even added, did you see some of the barters for fuel now? They added like therapist level 2, you can get the blue cans for like, I don't remember what it is, the trade.
Yeah,
I think it's pineapple juice and what is it?
and yeah, it was pineapple juice and something else. Because like the reason why I remember it being pineapple juice is because like pineapple juice is now really expensive, which
Yeah.
is like random. I don't know. Like it's some of these linkages are a bit strange. I think it kind of does weird things to the economy. I think it's interesting what they're doing with it,
It is
but
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, it kind of like puts weird stuff is to like really high values for kind of no real reason. Do you know what I mean? Other than the fact that like the traders
The
say that they are.
only, yeah, the only thing I could think of is scavs. You scav in and you find like pineapple juice. That used to be like trash, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you so now it's like, oh, like the same thing with like the vest. You know the new security vests that the scavs can spawn with?
Yes.
I don't know if they're still valuable, but like when they introduced that craft in the hideout, the vests were going for like 60K a pop on the flea market.
Yeah, see, because I was kind of confused as to why that was happening because I was like, that's not even really worth it for Kajura or whatever. But then I remembered it's probably for textiles,
Yeah.
just because I'm
Yeah.
not at that quest yet, but you need them find in raid. And so that's why people who are kind of at the end of the quest line already, I mean, some people will be. And
Mhm.
but those vests weren't really in that much supply because I think they're only find in raid anyway, right? You can't buy them from Ragman or anything. Um,
No.
and so I guess a lot of people were just like selling them straight to the traders rather than putting them up on the flea. So I think at the beginning they were quite high in price because only a few people were selling them for, or realized that you could sell them for, an amount that
Yeah.
people would buy them for. It's quite, I mean, it's fascinating what they're doing. It really is fascinating. Honestly, it's like the whole thing's gone crazy. I don't like. I'm quite fortunate that I rushed through and tried to build the solar power really early because I said to you last week that I've been like smashing the hideout more than anything else, and it's basically done for me now. And like with the solar power, you can kind of do what you like, which is good. But
Mm.
if you don't have
You have
that,
solar power?
yeah, and if
Oh,
you
wow, you really smashed
yeah,
through,
yeah.
huh?
That's like it's my main focus normally, and even more so this wave. And it's just one of those things. Like, yeah, if you don't have that, and I noticed because having it the whole of the last wave, you really notice it quite strongly when you come back to it and go, "Wow, I'm really burning through all this fuel." And I was thinking, well, thank God I'll have the solar soon, and then I won't have to refill it all the time. And then, like after this happened, I was like, "Geez, I'm way super glad that I did it now, because otherwise, like, it's just
Yeah, dude.
insanely expensive."
I wish I would've, 'cause I read somewhere, it was either like Twitter or Reddit, someone was like,
Yeah.
"Man, I'm glad I bought a whole bunch of fuel and
Mm.
saved," or I'm glad I didn't sell any of my fuel that I found in Raid," and they got like a whole stockpile. They probably got like 5 million worth of fuel just sitting in their junk box or whatever.
Yeah, I think the other one that's like super interesting because like we can talk about all the others as we go through, but I think like
Mhm.
the really like big ticket like super high hitting items. The second one that am finding really interesting is the LEDX trade because obviously getting the finding raid LEDX for the therapist part 5 of like the
Yeah.
healthcare quest line is a real pain or can be a real pain. I actually got super lucky, and the very first time I went to go loot run one of the rooms, I found one straight away, and got really, really lucky with that. But
Same thing happened to me.
but I can imagine like a ton of people just don't, they're not finding it, or they just can't be bothered and don't want to do it. But now
Right.
you've got those like RFID readers, which is part of this like LEDX craft, and now they're like 2 to 3 million on the flea market. Like it's
Yeah.
insane, and I think it's partly because hardly anyone has any, and they take like 48 hours to make in the in the intelligence center. I've already got a craft running, so I actually can't make them because I'm making GPUs in there. And so I'm just stuck. So that's the thing. Loads of people are going to be stuck making whatever, either things for their own. I actually like I made one probably 4 days ago, and then I turned it in because it's for the quest line and I had it prepped.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't imagine many people really keep them. Right? They're not for anything, and so it just means that like the supply of them is like non-existent, except for a couple of people who might think, well, maybe I'll just like sell it now just because I've just made it for the quest, but I can wait. I don't know. I find that one really interesting because, like, yeah, people clearly don't want to go into raid to try and find a LX because it would be a real pain. I did actually think that quest change was quite mean to make you
When
find the finding raid LEDX when they first started
um
this wipe. I was like, I don't know, I kind of like it, and I also kind of don't like it. I quite like it for the game. I don't really like it for myself. You know what I mean? Because
I get you on
I
that.
don't
Yeah.
really like doing that kind of loot running, especially when it's like super RNG and like items that
Yeah,
only
no.
spawn once every
It
20 times in like the places, and they're also highly contested. So it's like you might get it and then you'll die on the way out, and like it's just honestly really frustrating. I had like a similar experience trying to get the. I haven't even started on these quests yet, but like trying to get the golden TT last wipe, I found
mhm.
incredibly annoying. And those kind of things, like get the killer helmet and blah blah blah. Kill the
Yeah.
boss is fine, but like when you've got to like kill them and get out and not die to anyone else who's also trying to do the quest, it's like makes it really hard. So I thought it was quite mean. So I was quite honest. I was really relieved to get it done so early. But I think that one's also quite interesting because you can see just like the value of people not having to go into raids to get the thing. But I guess like the only other point about it for me is that I kind of find it a bit strange how they keep adding more and more and more and more crafts for like finding
Yes.
raid quest completions. I didn't really think they'd do that. So I don't know what your
Yeah.
thoughts are on it, but I find it almost counter to kind of like what I thought their vision would be.
Yeah, well, before I get into that,
Mm,
I do have one thing about the LEDX thing. I like the fact that they switch a lot of the quests this wipe to find and raid, just for consistency
yeah.
sake. Um, but the other kind of thing that bothers me with that quest particular, the what is it, healthcare privacy,
Hmm.
the what are the LEDX and ophthalmoscope one
Yeah.
is that you get
Part
the
five, I
thick
think it
items
is.
case
Yes.
and it's found in raid
Yes.
and you can I mean it's like this swipe I kinda played different. I got the lytics early, so I was like, "Man, I'm just gonna be a million," I just was like, "Whatever." And I got the money and I sold it. Normally, I would keep it, but I sold it, and now I don't have to worry about money. Like, you remember when they changed it and they removed it from Found and Raid for, like, 1 day because like, people were freaking out?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, they changed the quest completely, so you didn't even get one at one point, which was really
Oh,
mean.
that's right. Did they
Yeah.
lower
Yeah.
it to a
I
regular?
think so. Yeah. And loads of people completed
Okay.
it, and then were like, "Wait, what the hell?" And then, yeah.
Yeah. Because part of me feels like that quest is kinda, like, imbalancing the economy. Because like, I feel like now I don't have to worry like, I don't have to worry about money at all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing, right? Like you can sell it and then not worry about money. I guess it depends. Like if you're, I think for a lot of people, it's kind of like the lifeline to kind of getting to the next stage. I mean, are you saying that you'd like rather it if it wasn't finding raid, so you're stuck to just kind of like having to use it, which is obviously great. Like it's a great case. Um,
Yeah, I think that's because I just feel like it's like, part of the other things they seem to be doing is, like, slowing down the progression of the game, but I kind of feel like, I personally know of other people who that's their main goal when the wipe happens, is they rush therapist quest line to get that case so then they can just run meta gear for the rest of the wipe until they get bored.
well, yeah, I mean, you say that, but like, how much actually are they? Like 15 mil or something? Like, I guess it is a lot. I guess it is a lot.
I made 15 mil.
Yeah.
I put up for 17 mil, the tax was 2 mil.
Yeah. So like it is a lot, but like I mean how much I don't know how much slicks are at the moment, but like some of the meta gear is like 500k. You can easily go out with 1 million rubles worth of stuff if you're
Yeah, you can easily yeah.
and so like
I
it's
guess you're not set for the
yeah,
wipe,
it's
but
like
it's
it's
still
decent. It's a decent enough buffer. And I think like I'm kind of thinking pessimistically about it as well, right? Like saying like, oh well it's
mhm,
15 mil, so that's like 15 thick kits, but that assumes that you die 15 raids in a row and lose everything, right? Whereas like
mhm.
sometimes you're probably not going to do that every raid anyway, but sometimes you're gonna win and then you're gonna take someone else's stuff and then you're gonna sell that. And so it's like it's not like you lose every time. So even if you just slowly trickle down, you've still got the rest of the hideout pumping out cash. Probably keeps you afloat, maybe against some of gives you a buffer against it. I know it's difficult. Um, I don't know. Like, what you think? Do you think it's just like too easy though to sell it? Because I actually keep that case.
Well, see, now that they changed it to you have to find the LEDX, it I feel like it kinda balances that out, but then they made it so it's now you can craft the LEDX, which still is gonna be an investment of money. I don't know. I just I'd just be curious to see. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I just like for the wipe to last longer than however long. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's already weekend, and I'm like level 38, and I'm pretty much already at in game. It feels like,
Yeah, well,
I
like
know not
trade has been
everyone
near
can play.
full, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously, everyone's gonna have a bit of a different experience, but I just feel like the wipe doesn't last that long in general. I just like to see. Anyways, talk about another time.
Yeah.
Don't want to harp too much on it.
Yeah, no, exactly. But it's like I think it is an interesting one. I mean, they're trying to extend it out as time goes on. Um,
Yeah,
and yeah, look, it's taken a bit of
like
time, but
the fuel is definitely gonna be more of a money sink now, which makes me
yes.
wonder if it's worth running the hideout, like even doing the hideout period.
I think it's probably still worth running it because like altogether all the crafts make enough, I would think. But I don't know whether it's worth like well, I was gonna say I don't know whether it's worth rushing the farm. Like if it was like
That's
it
what I'm
was
thinking.
now at the start of the wipe, whether it's worth rushing straight there, I'm not
I
sure.
think you have to be like the first
Yeah.
like 2%, 5% who just like rush like speed run the hideout. But if you're in like the middle pack, you'd be paying like the highest price for
Yes, as
the
always, as
components.
as always. I mean, this is the reason I spoke about this last time, but this is the reason why like trying to predict what's going to happen, and it's quite interesting
Hmm.
because like Tarkov's not really like the real world because yes, things change every wipe, but a lot of the stuff stays the same. Like a good 80% of the game stays the same, like exactly the same. So you can kind of like it's like you got to like watch the market or whatever, and then you got to like rewind it 2 years and like play it out again. And even though it's not the same, like something else is very slightly different. It's yeah, the French prime minister got got voted in differently or whatever. Like the stuff still kind of happened in the same way. So if you
Yeah.
just buy all your GPUs really really early, I basically because I was just broke for the first like 3 weeks
Yeah,
because
that's
I just
smart.
bought
Hmm.
cards and cards and cards and cards and cards and bought all like I bought the 20 for between 150 and 200 at the beginning because I was like these things are going to go crazy because everyone wants to do the hideout, no one's there yet, and it's going to go mental because everybody just wants to buy these things and Bitcoin was like ridiculous price. um anyway, that's kind of that's kind of a separate thing, but
But kind of jumping back to what you were originally saying, to answer your question,
mm,
with them adding all of these crafts, um, do you think that perhaps they're trying to move away from traders and focus more on the hideout for player progression?
possibly. I mean, I don't know how whether they're going to like pull back from traders being available at all times for all things. I feel like that might end up not being the staple anymore because I don't know. I personally feel that the game should be like way more find and raid focused. And we've talked about this previously in terms of scarcity,
Hmm.
and the find and raid thing is kind of painful for the quest line stuff. But if you're kind of like piecing together kits yourself, it kind of feels a bit more like of a roguelike type game, rather than
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
market sim kind of game.
yeah.
Um, And I think like
I can see that.
I think they probably will move slowly towards more of a hardcore kind of mode. I think they're getting there slowly. I think they're like I don't know, they're slowly tweaking things the way that they want and getting there. But if they realize if they do it too quick, everybody will just like explode.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like the painkiller stuff. It's just like tick, 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 just like tiny tweaks over time, and eventually, and
Yeah,
no one realizes. But it's like they've fundamentally changed something over the period of 6 months. I know. I think it's quite smart. I think it's quite smart.
yeah, yeah. Because they like even I was really surprised to see, excuse me, the flare craft.
Oh yeah. I didn't actually check how expensive that was. I think
Me
like
neither.
I don't know. Like, yeah, it's a funny one. I mean, this stuff needs to be quite expensive. I just don't know why they've. I don't know why they've done it. I don't know. I don't know why they've
I
done
don't
it. Some of
know.
these crafts are just. I don't think that necessary. And like, I kind of wanted to talk about this a bit later, but we've ended up kind of doing a bit more like theory crafting stuff early, which is fine.
Yeah.
But the way that they've like pineapple juice just going through the roof because it's tied to the fuel barter and stuff. Like the way that they've like tied certain crafts together, I find really
Mhm.
strange. And I don't know whether this. I was looking at Kedora earlier, and because they've like added a new craft for that, which is for you need 4 of those like crappy satchel bags or something. But you
Yeah.
can buy the satchel bags from Ragman, and so that's
Right.
like pinned the price of Kedora to like
Isn't that
10 grand.
that's Ragman 1, right?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure,
I think
yeah.
so. And so now, like, that's it. Kajura's that's it, right? There's nothing. There's no upside on that stuff
Yeah,
whatsoever. I
that
actually
doesn't make
saved a
any
few. I know.
sense.
I actually saved a few originally because, like, I used to use them for the AACPC trade late game, and they
Mhm,
were like
mhm.
80k. But doesn't that make that craft really weird now? Like, I'm actually not at level 4 Ragman. He's one of the few I don't have level 4 with because I hate playing interchange, and I normally do those quests last. Um, so I haven't actually seen whether they've changed that one or not. But I just find like some of the interrelationships a little bit weird, and I don't think they
Right,
necessarily think about it.
because
Yeah.
you buy the tea bags to craft the Kedora to turn the Kedora into a barter trade to get the item you want,
Yeah.
which, maybe you save money in the process, but yeah, it is kind of a weird thing. The barters in general are really weird, like, I mean, they completely demolished the 8R, barter. It used to be just the rec battery,
Yes,
and now it's 2 chainlets in the rec battery,
exactly, which has killed
which,
it.
yeah, but by killed it would be, like, just generating money, like free money, you know?
Kind of, yeah. But I mean, the only reason why it generated free money was because you could do the trade and sell it immediately back to the trader, I think.
Right.
And so they should have done something there where you couldn't, like maybe they just like artificially put a debuff in on the $8 resale price or something, so you couldn't just like flip it to mechanic because that was kind of the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, it just doesn't the system doesn't make sense to me 'cause like, even like, take any barter, and it's like, let's say, like, the AK-74 SG, the one where it used to be a horse,
Yeah,
which I think they changed it again to make it more expensive. But, like, all you do is you say, "Okay, how much does this prapper sell this for?" Let's say it's 30K. Alright, and then you look at the barter and you say, "Oh, he wants a horse. Let me look up the horse. How much is the horse in the flea
yeah.
market?" It's very cut and dry,
hmm I think they should
which doesn't really
change
make good sense.
personally. I think like if it was up to me, I think that
Yeah.
they should make the barters really good value, like
Mhm.
crazy, like insanely good value, and but the items should have to be finding raid.
Thank you. I feel like that'd be a great system because then it'd be so much for interesting looting. Like
Mhm.
like let's say you find a I'm trying to think of something like a what's something that's not very valuable that takes up a lot of space. I guess like a
Like a
propane tank
drill
maybe.
or something.
Yeah, drill. That's a good one. Um, Now it's like, do I keep this 4 slot item that I can barter for like a kitted out AK, which has like way more value, or do I drop this item for some other gear or
Yeah.
equipment or item I need that I could sell in the flea market or use the craft? Like it opens up so many more,
And what I
so much
like
more.
about that is that it stops becoming, as you said, so cut and dried, right? Because then you're
Right.
like, some people will pick up the drill and some people won't. Because once you've bartered it, the item that you get won't be fine in raid. So you will actually have to want to
Mm-hmm.
use it. So
Mm,
some people will be like, well, I don't want to use that gun, and so
right.
I won't pick it up because I want to just pick up more stuff that I can sell for cash because I want to buy something else. But some people will be like, well, I do want to use that weapon, and so I will pick up these various things and be looking for them specifically because it's really good value because otherwise I would have bought it, and so it saves me money. And so like you can look at it from either two angles, and there's like people could or could not pick it up depending on what their use case is, which I think could be more interesting. But yeah, right now it's weird because you're just like, okay, it's one of these, and okay, this is which one's cheaper, no, it's that one. Okay, fine. And then you just buy the one and just trade it in. But I don't know. I feel like eventually they'll make it fine in raid because I think
I
it.
think so.
Yeah, there used to be was it? I think there was a bug, but I kind of suspect that maybe it wasn't such a bug. But there was like it was either in the flea market or in the trader screen. You couldn't give it to them if it wasn't fine in raid. I think it was the flea market. You had to go to the trader screen
Yes.
specifically. I think that might still be the case actually.
I think it's still the case. Yeah.
I don't know whether that's that. To be honest, that might just be a programming hangover from the finding raid application to the flea. So the flea market interface is locked off. But who knows, right? Who knows? Yeah, it's
Let's
still
see
part of
if
that system.
you're doing a player to player barter. whatever item they're asking
Yes.
for, it has to be found in Ray.
Yes.
So I think that system's just locked into the flea
You're
market
probably right
menu.
about that, but it made me think, and I was like, I wonder if they
Yeah.
were going to change it on everything, because then it would make the barter make more sense, and then things wouldn't be, because you'd break one side of the linkage. Then things wouldn't just be intrinsically linked together in this huge network, because that's kind of the way that we're going to end up, right? It's like everything's just linked together in this like massive network, and it's like everything's just a big
Yeah.
simultaneous equation where it's just like 4 of these equals 1 of this, but this plus this equals 1 of these, because this is a barter and this is a craft, and you can craft this part for this part and this part, and it just ends up being like, yeah, it's just this big like mass of interconnected like stuff. I just find it a bit strange.
See, I feel like some of that would be good because um spark plugs, for example,
Hmm.
is like something that's maybe valuable at the very start of a wipe, but afterwards you just throw it you know what I mean? It doesn't really hold its value.
Yeah.
If they had like a system or maybe like a philosophy of just having to, I don't know how you would do it, but keeping value in these items. You know what I mean? Because it's just like stuff just like kind of comes and goes as you progress. It'd be more interesting to me if like, you know what I'm getting at? I'm
Yeah,
not really
exactly.
explaining
Because
it
it's
very
just like it's
well.
like you have like kind of like a wave of stuff. You have like if you had like a chart of like value
Hmm.
and like the
Hmm.
various items, and you categorize them from like, oh, here's the stuff you need right at the start. It's I don't know, like MP133 shotguns, I guess, is like the very first thing
Sure.
on the list, right? And then it like
Yeah.
as it goes through, you have all the various other things, and it's like the price is kind of like it's like a big ripple wave, because it's like starts here, and then it and then gets to the end, and then there's all the stuff at the end that's valuable just stays valuable, because it's just like that stuff the best stuff, and then it's just stuck there, like Kojira was before they screwed it up. um
Yeah. But even then, that's not entirely true because I noticed that I checked prices on Hex and they were like 180K, which now they've gone up about 300K, I want to say.
I think they're going to
At
keep going
this,
though, because I think we're still in the middle. I think we're still in the
yeah,
middle.
you think they're still gonna go? Yeah, they're
Yeah,
still gonna go
I
up
think
for
so.
sure.
There's lots of people who are still like on their way through. Like you just like look in the lobbies and stuff. I think we're probably. I wouldn't say that I'm not like full time power leveler kind of person.
Hmm.
But I would say we're probably in the kind of like, I don't know, in terms of the player base, probably in like the 70th percentile or something. I would say in terms of speed. That's probably where I put
Okay.
myself. Maybe like a bit higher, maybe like 80th for flea, and then like 60th for level, maybe something like that for myself. But
Hmm.
so not flea, the hideout.
Hideout. Yeah, I
Um,
got you.
but yeah, I mean, I think there's plenty of people in that 50 who are still kind of, they're like level 2, 3 traders now, and they're building up stuff. Maybe some people are like getting up Bitcoin One, and they've got like a couple of bits and pieces. And like, I feel like they maybe changed this fuel thing like literally at the time where it's going to cause the maximum amount of pain.
Yeah, I see. Part of me also wonders, like you were saying, is this just a knee jerk reaction to the price of Bitcoin? Are they trying to like crank back the system they put in place where the Bitcoin follows the real value of Bitcoin? You know?
I think partly because like the way that it was, if they'd kept it the same, the end of the wipe, it's just going to be accelerate it right in, which I kind
Yeah,
of get. And I kind of feel like, yeah, fuel should sort of be valuable.
I
But
think
like,
so because it was free money
yeah, it was just
because
free.
you would use it and then you craft it and sell the mag box and you just buy the fuel again. It was like never ending.
Exactly. Exactly. Whereas like, I'm almost like imagining in my head, it's like the mechanic trades that are like for a Bitcoin, which no one ever uses now. But
Yeah.
you could almost imagine a system where they've got like in the future, this is not going to happen straight away, but this will be a few iterations, because again, otherwise people will on the forum. But you have like a system where like, yeah, you can craft your Bitcoin, and then the Bitcoins can go for like really powerful barters with mechanic for like certain things. But the fuel's really hard to find. So you like get a fuel can and you're like running your stuff till you make a coin, and then you get to use it for a particular barter. So it'd be like, it wouldn't just be like you run the thing every day all the time, and a bit more sporadic. I don't know whether that would be better. I'm not sure. I know, just like I'm brainstorming so many things right now, because like the game's changing like crazy.
Yeah.
um it's nuts. It's really nuts. It's really nuts. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where it's going to end up, and I don't know when the changes are going to stop, because it's mental what they're doing, and I love it.
What if they made Bitcoin a make it more realistic for a certain reason, but I'll get into that. But if they remove like the physical aspect of it, and instead you get like a currency of it when you craft it, and then that's like a I don't know, like a unique currency that you can only purchase certain things with
I
from
guess that's
traders
kind
or
of the
whoever.
same.
Kind of, but well, you
But like an
couldn't
actual
maybe
currency, so it's like as
right.
opposed to just specific barters.
Yes, and then the price could fluctuate. I don't know, just kind of thinking.
I mean, there's so many ways it can go. There's so many ways it
Yeah.
can go. But yeah, I think they're trying to like reel back a bit the whole just like literal printing press in the basement that it became at the end of last
Yeah.
wipe, and probably the people who got there really early as well is just
Yeah.
kind of like, all right, cool, free money forever at this point. And I like the fact that it feels a bit more scarce. It'd be quite nice. Like the people have been asking for ages. This is like complete tangent, but
Mhm.
like people have been asking for ages for fuel to be like siphonable for out of cars and that kind of thing, which I
Yeah.
think would be quite nice. Like it would be quite cool to have to go and do a fuel run in some ways that like it wouldn't just spawn, or that it would be difficult to buy off the fleet. Like maybe you could buy like empty tanks off the fleet, but you couldn't actually sell the full canisters or something. Like or if you bought it off the flea
Hmm.
market, it'd be empty or something. So you'd have to actually go and do something. Because I think that's like partly the issue that some people have with the gameplay element or the angle of like the hideout, in that you can kind of just like, you don't have to go out and go and do anything. You can just buy all the equipment off the flea market, stuff it in the hideout, and then push it all back out onto the flea market at the other end. And so it's like a big mini game. Whereas if you actually had to go and do something, that would kind of give you more to do in raids, which kind of is also what other people are looking for, right? That people are looking for like, well, where's the, what am I supposed to be doing? And it's like, yeah, you've got quests and stuff, but like if the game had more elements in it that you could decide on your own tasks, because you need to go into raid to go and refuel fuel cans from the old gas station or whatever, then like that, maybe that would give people more of their own purpose rather than
Yeah.
just having to follow the quests, which are of questionable content, especially once you've done them a few times. I don't really mind, honestly. I quite like having things to do with them, and they kind of drive people to do stuff. But I still think it would be better to have like
Player
self-made
driven.
stories.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I mean, if they yeah, that's the thing. Because right now it feels like, and I'm kinda hesitant to say this, but it feels like call to extra steps. Like, instead of just, like, equipping my loadout, I have to, like, have the funds, craft the thing, click all the buttons, put all my gear
Yeah,
on. Whereas, like, what you're describing would be more like physically doing, enacting the action of going into a game with a purpose to grab the fuel to I don't know. It kinda makes more instead of just clicking
yeah,
things, I'm actually playing the game, you know? That's yeah.
yeah. And I think like this is kind of like what they start. Like I know people complained, but this is kind of what they started with the whole find in raid thing for the quests. Because when you could just go on the flea market and buy everything, and I think like
Right.
it just kind of like it prevents that sort of that like the drive to actually go and do a specific thing to get that specific task done that you need done. Because the way that Tarkov set up right now, or before the find and raid flee thing was set up as well, it was even more so like this, which is like, it's actually kind of just like a philosophical choice really as to how you want your game to be and how Battlestate want the game to be. And I don't think they wanted it to be the way it was before, which is why I think they're slowly making changes to it, which is like there's a very basic question, right? Which is, do you want, and really it just comes down to money, right? Do you want a system where 50 crappy AKs equals one meta M4, or do you want a system where that linkage is broken and isn't able to be be bridged? Do you see what I mean? Because like in a game, say you take Tarkov as it is now, and you
Okay.
make everything finding raid and remove all the traders, like I kind of talked about previously. No matter
Okay.
how many crappy AKs you find, you
Mhm.
can never get an M4 with them because there's no traders and there's no barters and there's no crafting. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't
Um,
matter how many you find. Whereas the system now has the fungibility of money concept in it, which circumvents half of the stuff that you have to do, because you can take 50 crappy AKs and you can sell them for rubles, and you can take those
Mhm.
rubles and you can buy whatever you like. And so, and that linkage there, which they've broken a bit with the find and raid quests thing, it's like, well,
I see what you're
you can
saying.
have as much money as you like, but your gas analyzer isn't find and raid, so you're going to have to go out and find it, right? And it's like, that's kind of the way that I saw them progressing the sort of objectives and activities in the game, which is why I'm surprised that they're adding so many of these find and raid crafts to the hideout, because again, you can just buy the components and put them in at one end of the machine and take
Right.
the find and raid thing out and just give it to the trader, right? It's like, that to me is non-find and raid with extra steps. You see
Yes.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right, but it's
Yeah.
kinda one of those things where it's like, they're trying to, like, please everyone, because on
Yeah.
one hand, you got people like, "Hey," like you're saying, "I don't wanna run Shoreline 100 times just to find this LEDX." And like BSG, "Oh, come down from the heavens, Nikita, LEDX craft," you know?
Yes.
But like you're saying, it's just yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I find
That's
it
why it made me think. Go
interesting.
ahead.
Yeah, no, I just find it like, I just find it contradictory. I don't really know. Like, I
Yeah.
guess, like, at the same time, I'm assuming that I know what they want, right? Or I'm assuming, like,
Mhm.
from everything you hear and everything you see Nikita say and all this stuff, they want it to go more towards that kind of, you go into raid and find your stuff and you make your own story and that kind of thing. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, they're adding finding raid for quests, and like, yeah, okay, this is happening this way. And then when they go, we're also adding this crafted, and I'm like, but that doesn't make sense to me. It's inconsistent to me. I don't
Yeah.
understand. Like,
I didn't even think about that. You're right, though.
it seems backwards to me. It seems like a step the other way, because when they added LEDX in the first place, I was like, oh, that's going to suck for me and players like
Mhm.
me, which is probably good in some ways, because, like, I'm a very economic player, right? I try to smash through
Mhm.
the hideout and I make a ton of rubles, and then I do whatever else I want with them. And people like people like me should be stopped because, you know, Tarkov's not really supposed to be like that. I don't think it's not got, like, I'm going to keep doing it because it's just kind of the way that I am.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think it's necessarily got the right feel to it. Anyway, we could talk about something else. I've
No, it's
waxed
fine. I mean,
lyrically enough
it's
about the sort of the state of the game here, but I find it interesting. I find it interesting the direction they've gone with that. So we'll see.
yeah, I can't make sense of it. I don't know,
Hmm.
because on one hand, I feel like they're trying to please 2 parties, but like you said, it just made a whole bunch of extra steps. I don't know. I don't know what
Yeah,
they're like, what they're moving towards. I don't know,
the
because
way.
I initially
Yeah.
thought
No,
it
you
was
go
gonna
on. You go on.
be I thought perhaps they're gonna start, like, traders are gonna provide less items, so
Mm.
you would, like, have to rely on, I don't know, I guess buying, selling, and then purchasing off the flea market to build the item you want. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird one.
It is. It is. Like, I can imagine a game state where you've got kind of like, you can buy, 1/3 of the weapons from the traders. So, like, you can
Mhm,
definitely play with just the traders if you want, and then like the other weapons, they're not necessarily better, even just like the other guns are all like, finding raid, they're in weapons boxes or whatever, or like and in my mind, the way that you'd balance it is you'd have things like, so you'd have like 3 tiers of items in my mind. Like, this is how I would do it if it was me. You'd have, like, the
okay.
traders would have things like, the MP5, and
Mhm,
they would have, like, the UMP is probably perfect for this, actually, because it's just like not very good. And you have like a couple of things like that, right? They still sell the ADAR, they sell you, AK-74 or whatever, that kind of thing. But then if
maybe
you
some civilian AKs.
yeah, exactly, and like, and the VPOs and all that kind of stuff. And
Right.
then in the central section, you'd have things that would, like, you'd find the whole gun in a weapons box. So you would have, maybe, I'm just trying to think, like, what are the good examples? Like, maybe you'd find like, a stock M4 might be too low level. I don't know, maybe like a DTMDR 762, something like that. Like, you'd find the whole gun just in a box.
Mhm,
Maybe P90 or something. I don't know where you'd put them exactly. And then I feel like the third category you'd have, which would be like the really rare items, like maybe it would be the Vector, maybe it would be the P90 still, I don't know. Maybe it would be like, but definitely like things like the Mark 18. So these, like, really, and like the RSAS, stuff like that, right? You'd have like really rare items, and maybe items that just like shouldn't really be there. They're not really in this part of the setting because they're like Western guns, maybe like HKs even, whatever it is. And you can only find the pieces, and you have to piece those guns together bit by bit. And yes, maybe they would be better actually. Like they're just they're the better guns, they're best guns in the game. So you can get by just fine, right? People run MP5s all the time, and you can run Hunters, Mosins, whatever you like, or
Yep.
ADARs and AKs and whatever, and you can get them from the traders. That's fine. You can play just fine, and you can buy OK ammo or whatever. But if you want to trade, if you want to play with the spicy guns, you got to go and find them, and like it would make it really exciting, like piecing together like a Mark 18 from all the little bits. And if you killed somebody with one as well, you'd be like, oh my god, like this guy's like, put them all together. Maybe you'd have a couple of them were like super super rare. I don't know.
Even just looting like weapon crates, you could find like an HK gas block.
Yeah,
Like, oh
exactly.
my god, this thing's worth like 100K on the flea market, or whatever,
Or however you do it. Like maybe you wouldn't even maybe you wouldn't even allow those things on the fleet. I don't know. Anyway, that's kind of how I do it. And that would like allow you to like tier the different things, so people could play the game just fine with the normal guns, right? Because and like they're okay. There's the time to kill in Tarkov is so low that like we spend so much time kind of circle jerking over weapons, right? And
yeah.
but like you fill an ADAR with M9M5 and people are going to die. So it's actually it's almost like it's quite funny how much time we spend like thinking about weapons and guns or whatever, whereas like most guns are pretty lethal, and you just put like BS in an AK and it'll kill anyone. It's quite entertaining how much time we spend just like messing around. It's like, is the Mark 18 Mjolnir, like, I know it's, to be fair, it is good, but like, is it that much better than anything else? If you catch anybody with any gun, they die. So the game's more about tactics, knowledge, and positioning, in my opinion, than it is necessarily about like shooting. But that's just my opinion.
I can kind of see that. Yeah. I mean, all you need is a bullet to someone's head eyes, and they're dead. So
exactly.
Just shoot them in the face, lol.
Exactly. All right, so what should we? There's like so much. There's so much that's happened.
I know.
We could just like honestly talk about it forever. I guess like, what's a good thing to sort of segue into? Kill Sturman 25 times for the Mark 18.
Oh yeah, we could talk about that. I think that gun should be locked behind a quest. I don't know. It's whatever.
It is, right? Is it? So I haven't actually got there yet, and I haven't actually looked into it too much. So you have to kill him 25 times before you can even unlock it and buy it from him, right?
Yeah,
that is correct, right? Good. I thought so. I think you can still find it in like marked rooms and things, which I think shouldn't happen.
They did add it to Mark Room, which they also added the GL to Mark Room. And I looked at the price of that. That was relatively cheap, like 300K. I don't know. This stuff's really hard to like determine because the game's it's just changing so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so hard to really.
They're just they're such specialist pieces of kit. These things, like that's the thing. Like the average player is just not really going to use them.
Yeah,
I think a lot of the time.
For sure.
And people go like, "Oh, this new gun," and then it's like everyone gets fed up. It's like the star rounds. They're still broken as hell. It's just like no one uses it because they're bored.
Well, that, and you can only get 2 from the trader.
True.
And now you can craft 7 in the hideout, but that takes like 4 hours roughly. I don't know.
I think people just like fed up of. People just like to play the game normally, right? Like people get fed up of just memeing around with it. Like it's funny, but you have to use it in a very specific way. And ultimately, people just like going back to meta M4s and just running around shooting people with them and that kind of thing. So I think it's nice to have this variety. And people always go, "Oh, it's so OP! Oh my goodness!" Did you see, by the way, they increased the vector price again? It's now 85K.
Did they move it to Skier 3?
They did move it to Skier 3. I think they moved the.
They listened.
I think they moved the ACP one back to Skier 2.
Ooh, interesting.
So they've switched them around because I think like the player base is like clearly proved that the 9mm one is superior. 7N31 is like 1500 from Prapor.
Even now. I saw that.
Holy shit.
That is, the wiki hasn't updated the pricing, but
it's mind blowing.
Yeah,
it's basically selling on the fleet for the same price it is from Prav.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be like the ultimate late game build is the Vector drum mag with 7N31. But
it's nuts, right? Like it's a drum mag of that costs 75K,
and you can burn through money so fast, dude, with that.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that I had a decent amount of fun with it before it got really expensive.
Mhm.
Because I've kind of like moved away and like I'm going to be running some other things now. Actually, you know what? Another random point. I just keep thinking of new things to talk about. One thing
Go
that's
for it.
a huge game changer, and I actually haven't looked into it to see whether they've rebalanced anything else. I just noticed today, and I think it's still good, is that Mark 10 Alexander Arms handguard for the M4s, which is like my staple of all my budget builds that I
Oh,
make. But
you
it's at quite a high trade level because the rail was mechanic 4. That is now level 3, I'm pretty sure.
huh.
Um, because I don't have mechanic 4 and I can still buy it because I'm not level
'Cause that's the
40 yet.
one you can put it's the 10-inch rail that you can put the Hera grip on.
Exactly. It's the
Yeah,
round perforated one.
I know you're talking about. That's kinda like
It's like the budget meta
the
one.
budget meta. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
the one if you don't go for the SAI
Right.
like jailbreak ready one.
Mhm.
It's basically like there's 2 handguards in the game for M4s that give 3% recoil. That's one of them, right? There's 2. There's the salient arms one, and then there's that
When
one.
you really break it down, yeah.
Yeah, that's really it, right? It's like, okay, there's
Yeah.
3%, and there's one that gives it to you. But people could never build it before because the level, like you could buy the actual handguard at level 3 mechanic, but the 10-inch guide was level 4 always, and that was a big blocker for
Mhm.
people because getting to mechanic 3 is not too bad, but getting to level 40 actually takes a little bit extra time.
Yeah,
And
that one does.
yeah, and people kind of stuck by that. And if obviously you can't put a foregrip on it, it's not very good. It really like hampers it, and you're better off using other things. You're better off using a 2% handguard instead, and then using a foregrip that gives you 3 or something. And so that's actually to me that's kind of a big game changer. I think it allows you to run
Mhm.
like the budget meta build like much earlier when you've got mechanic
Yeah.
3 instead, and it also means that you can probably go on the flea market and buy them because before they were really like that guard, sorry, not the guard, the rail was so expensive on the flea because no one could buy them and everyone wanted to. Whereas now you can buy them fairly early. So then again, we talked about this last time. The demand's gone away, the supply's the same, the prices fall. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So I think that one's interesting. So I'm actually probably going to start running some M4s like now.
I
Um,
want to, um, I'm just kinda I want yeah, I don't know. I might just do it, bite the bullet, and pay the extra money for I wanna just run the meta stuff, but I can afford it. I should just do it.
like what? What's
Anyways.
holding you back?
I'm still, like, like, I wanna be mechanic 4 so I can get the dealer price you know what I mean? And not to deal with the flea market price.
Well,
Like, I want the flat
which one do you want?
SIA,
Oh, you want
the
the
best
meta? You want
one.
the meta one?
Yeah,
Thing
yeah,
is, you
yeah.
can make this one super good. I always tend to.
Yeah.
I never make the lowest recoil version. Almost never. I always make
Mhm,
like one that's like kind of close, but is like half the price, kind of
mhm.
thing. Just because I quite like it. But this thing I'm going to see, you can probably get to a decent recoil on it. I haven't actually tested it yet. There's like so much stuff that I need to investigate. Like I've done my deep dive investigation into all the stocks, and the MOE carbines with the butt pads like clearly the best, and they're very cheap as well. But the suppressors I need to actually have a look at because the Thunder Beast and the other one I think are the best two. But the other ones I haven't like tabulated all the ergo yet, so I need to figure it out. But anyway, I really want to start running these M4s. I kind of wanted to do it when you unlocked M855A1, but then when I realized I was like, I actually can't make this gun very good. I'm going to carry on running the Vector because it's insane.
A slight tangent, there is something I wanna talk about,
Yes.
but, um, why is Peacekeeper's quest line so gatekept behind Skier? Because, like, I was looking at the wiki, looking at the task, and I noticed, like, level requirement 14. I'm, like, level 38. Like, I mean, why is it? Because he has, like, some really valuable stuff. Because you can get level him up to level 3, but,
Yes.
like, if you're still stuck on Skier, like, say you're stuck on flash drives, that's just
Hmm.
RNG. And the other thing is, like, I'm standard account, so I have to upgrade my stash to
Yeah.
level 2 to craft the Intel level 3, I think it is, that you can make the flash drives, which I worked towards, which I ended up finding the flash drives before I could even craft them.
Okay.
But, yeah, I don't know, it was just like, why is that so gatekept?
I'm not really
Because
sure,
there's a lot of
honestly.
stuff. Because there's
Yeah.
M6 ones you unlock the RSS,
Hmm.
to buy it from, dollars instead of the trade. There's I wanna say 55A1 is behind the quest requirement, or no? Maybe it's 995 is the quest requirement
I think
for
there's so many
for
things that are quest
Peacekeeper.
requirements from him. Yeah, even the grenades are requirements. But like, I don't know, to be honest. Like last wipe, I actually caught the full brunt force of this, and it sucked. I actually got like, this is one reason why I just hated finding raid for a while, because I got stuck behind both therapist and skier. I just couldn't find any gas analyzers, and I couldn't find any flash drives anywhere.
That's
I didn't
unlucky.
find
Yeah.
I mean, until completing both Skier's quest and the one for Jaeger, I did not find a single drive last wipe at all. And I did like a whole bunch of interchange runs and all this stuff. And eventually I was just like, screw this, I'm going to make them. And I did exactly what you were looking to do. I pushed the Intel Center 2 and I made them all. I made all the ones for Skier and all the ones for Jaeger. I didn't find a single drive before completing both of those quests. And it sucked. And then Peacekeeper was just like, you know, oh, you
He's
want to
so
go to,
far
yeah, it's
behind.
just so far behind. And like, doing his first quest at like level 30 or something.
Yeah.
I was like, this is really, really bad. And I don't know. I'm not really sure why it's so tricky there. I think it's partly the philosophy of they want to gatekeep the Western weapons somewhat
Yeah,
and
I think
force
it's
you down a lot
lore
of progression.
based.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Because
Yeah,
it's like
there's definitely some stuff there. Yeah.
they want you to really work for it if you want to be running that stuff. That's actually a
But
cool thing. The RSS one, like I'll talk about it in a minute. Actually, I don't want to go off topic too much. What were you
I
going to
was
say
just gonna
first?
say I was just gonna say that, I mean, it just didn't make sense, like, Cargo X, I think it was, like, the Cargo X Part 3, I have it pulled up, must be level 12 to start this quest.
And it's so far
I'm
along.
Yeah, it's way down the
You
line.
have to do like
Like,
spa tours all the way through to like 7 or something, and then like would you probably get enough XP just from doing the quests to be like that level anyway. I'm not even sure if you could be
oh,
level 14.
and the rewards are awful. I got a, if I complete this quest, I get a MP5. 3 of them. I'm, like, way past that stage, like, I don't know.
It's
Anyways,
very,
that's just
yeah.
I'm ranting,
That's
so
very, it's strange. It is very, very strange. I don't get it. But no, like I was really stubborn about it because the RSS one is really late. I thought it was quite late anyway. It was like, is it Wet Job 3 or something? Or
it's
Wet
real
Job
no, it's really far
so
down.
it's like what it's down like, you do his like a bunch of his random stuff, then you do the Spartor
Yeah,
stuff, then there's the
right,
fork, and you do the whole of like a half of this
right.
one line. And I finished that one very recently, and I was super stubborn and refused to buy the RSAS from the flea, and I refused to give in all my dog tags because I still need them for the Punisher, because I didn't actually get that many because I haven't had enough time to actually play that many like sweaty PMC raids. I've done a
Mhm.
lot of like random quest runs just like in between stuff because I've only had like 20 minutes to do things, and I was like still wanting to get progression. This is partly why I've ended up pushing so far on some of the quest lines without actually having killed that many people. But anyway, so like I finally managed to do that, and then did like Gunsmith 4 all the way through 16 literally in one go,
Yeah, yeah,
which is pretty
it's
epic, which was fun. But like I think I put up a tweet earlier about like Gunsmith 14. It just, I was like, there's like the requirement that's not in the actual description. I was like, you're kidding, because I
yeah,
did I did all of them without looking at any of the guides this time because I really just wanted to do it. And I was like, man, I cannot make this one work. Like, he won't take this gun, like, no matter what. And I like kind of looked it up. I didn't look on the wiki. I like looked up a few other people being like, what am I doing wrong? People are like, oh, it's the Magpul foregrip. You need the black one, not the AFG one. I'm just like, no, I've done that right. And then it's like, there's a few other bits. I was like, no, I've done all of this right. I don't understand what's going on. And I looked on the wiki. It's just like, oh, it doesn't mention it, but you actually need to put a magazine on this one. I was just like, Nikita, like, go on. Are you serious?
yeah,
Oh,
I want to make a, um, I don't know, like, there's so many question marks on the quests and quest rewards and the progression system. Like, at one point in the previous wipe, I got a VOW or VSS from Skier or someone, and I couldn't buy the ammo from any trader. No trader sold it. Like,
yeah.
it didn't, like, there's I got like a Sega and I couldn't get any mags from the trader. Like, there was like, it's just like, it was so like, there's so many examples, but I want to make something started on. I need to finish. But the other thing I was gonna say about the RSS is, man, they screwed me over, GigaBeef. I needed one more dog tag for the
Yeah.
trade, and I go to click on it and check how many more I need, and they changed the barter to 8 U6, and 8 bear, and I have only 3 bear out of my 19 dog tags I'm
Oh
saving for that
no.
barter. I was like, "Are you serious, Nikita? Really, Nikita?
Okay, that's horrible.
Why did they do that? Why? I don't. You
That's
know how
super
hard it is to
funny.
find bear dog tags, dude? It's so like, anyways,
That's terrible. That's actually
yeah,
terrible.
yeah.
Goodness.
Did you hear about um? It's kind of been circling the news a bit. Did you hear about the video that someone? I don't know if it's like Summit 1G's video manager or someone just uploads clips to YouTube, but it was a clip of Summit 1G playing, and he was on interchange and he was playing with Hutch or some other one of his teammates, and he shoots a guy and he kills him, and then the other guy starts like pushing, and he sort of like does the classic like just teleport
Yep.
across, and then he comes around the corner and just one taps him,
Hmm.
and Summit, kind of like rages, and after he kind of levels out, he's like, I don't even think that guy was hacking, because he was like, bro, this game, get your game under control to all these hackers, blah blah blah. But then he kind of was like, you know what? I don't even think that guy was hacking. I think that was just like horrible netcode.
Yeah. I
Have you
did.
seen any? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I did see it. I did see it. Um, and I saw it because MarkStrom made a video response to it,
Yes,
and I
that's
and I watched
yeah.
that. Or at least I watched the first half of it anyway.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I mean, it's just it's two takes on the same thing. Like I think Markstrom sums it up pretty well
Hmm.
because he basically says, look, obviously he's frustrated, and some of it's come from CS, which is
Right.
very good netcode, and I don't know. He basically says, look, I still love EFT and I play it for other reasons, and I think that's it's not like COD or those other games in terms of its netcode. Now, one thing that actually seems to have disappeared, now that you've reminded me about it, is the whole Veritas video about the client versus server. What's the word for it? Where either the client or the server
Client
is, that's the one,
authoritative,
client authoritative or server
server.
authoritative. Because
Right.
people seem to have just gone back to going oh, it's crappy netcode and blah blah blah. Whereas there does seem to be Veritas did seem to kind of prove that there was a fundamental structural
Yeah.
reason as to why the game play
Yeah.
feels and looks the way it does.
Absolutely.
And that seems to have gone all a bit quiet, to be honest. I haven't really seen many people either referencing that video or talking about it. And I thought he nailed it personally.
Yeah.
Um, it's it's strange that's disappeared because now it's all coming to a fore again because yeah, you don't notice it a lot of the time. And again, Markstrom summed it up right. The first 10 minutes of his video, he talks about all the issues and all the reasons why people still play Tarkov anyway. It's just the game makes up for the fact that the netcode is probably one of the worst out of the competitive shooters, because it's not a competitive shooter to be fair, but of those kinds of things, probably is one of the worst. Um, I think it almost makes it feel worse because the game looks so polished in so many other ways, and the game feels great, and then when you get to know it really intimately, you're like, okay, the
Hmm.
close combat is a bit scuffed. But you play it for other reasons, right? You play it for stalking up on people, and the the long range fighting, and seeing people from afar, and not knowing what
I
outflanking
think
people and
it's
all this stuff.
it's
Um,
immersion breaking. Like Cyberpunk 2077, a lot of people like were really hyped about the game, and it's like supposed to be very immersive. Then you go and play the game, and then you're dealing with all these bugs, and it kind of like takes you out of the experience. I feel like
yeah.
that's kind of the same thing that's happening in Tarkov. Like it feels you're very immersed in experience. The combat's very like realistic, the
Mm,
movement, the mechanics,
mm.
and then all of a sudden this guy just like warps in front of you, and you're dead. It just kind of takes you out of the experience.
Yeah, I do. I think so. I think so. I do feel like it kind of disproportionately affects those people who like to be doing that kind of very intense, quick, short ranged COD style gameplay. I mean, in the COD or
Hmm.
CS style gameplay, and I think it disproportionately affects those players because of the style of fighting lends itself to uncovering those issues more frequently than other people, which is probably why you see a lot of streamers either you know getting annoyed when it doesn't go their way because it's clearly wasn't skill based in that moment, as well as using the system aggressively to their own advantage to kill other players
Right.
who they're effectively doing it to the other way around. And I think there's a good, healthy mix of the two. I do feel almost like the Tarkov only streamers, and especially the people who are very, very good, aggressively use this feature to kill a lot of people. And people who are
Feature.
like generic, like slightly more generic streamers, or maybe they play like multiple different games, because it's not like in their in their muscle memory to just like abuse the netcode. I mean, abuse is a strong word, but you know what I mean. It's like
I know what you're getting at.
it's a very specific way of playing, and it kind of like I actually thought this a while back, which is that Tarkov is kind of like you play. I almost wanted to do a video on it at some point, but like I don't really feel like an authority on it, because like I'm not the best shot, and I'm not like necessarily the best person at like killing other players and things. So I just like never really wanted to do it. But just like one of the general principles that it does seem to stand true is like if you play slow and careful until you know where someone is, and once you have that information, you then just press them. And so aggressive with knowledge and passive with no knowledge seems to be like the optimal way to play. And there's like a couple of tweets I saw other people talking about it, saying kind of the same thing, that like once you have the information on where somebody is, then typically speaking, if you're aggressive, you're much more likely to win. Whereas like, because people always say like, oh, I tried to play like the streamers and I die anyway, and then I try to play slow and I die anyway. And that's because like they're kind of doing it the wrong way, right? It's like if somebody's sat in a bush and you sprint past them, yeah, they're going to kill you. But that's because like they knew where you were and you didn't know where they were. Whereas like if you both know where each other are, you're better off than actually just like pressing your opponent super hard, because it's actually quite difficult to defend yourself because for various reasons. Netcode being one of them. So I don't know. I found that I did find it quite interesting, but like I liked MarkStrom's approach, because he basically said, "I love EFT despite this, in spite of what I know about the way the netcode works, in spite of how bad I know that it can be. I still love the game anyway because it's only a small portion of that, which is why I think it will never really be COD with extra steps. Because if you're playing it just for the COD bit, then I think ultimately it will lose its allure in a lot of ways. Whereas like." Yeah, because like that's the thing. I think it depends on how you play it too. It's like I've actually quite enjoyed some of this wipe because I've been doing a few things that I don't normally, like going to resort and trying to find lead X's and killing people and stuff there, which I don't normally do a lot of. I tend to spend most of my time outside. I don't really go into the resort very much, partly because like I don't feel necessarily as confident to just like play with the netcode as like other people do, and I feel like the fights are fairer outside. When there's not like tons of buildings and loads of people, not just like AD strafing all over the place and stuff. Like I feel like the fights are a lot fairer, because like the cover is wider, you can catch people off guard, and there it's more about strategy and tactics than it is necessarily about like combat ability, I should say. And like I definitely fall into the category of like a strategy and tactics player rather than a quick scoping, AD like round the corner one tapping kind of guy. Like I'm much more likely to outflank somebody and then catch them in the open than I am to snap a headshot off like round the corner as someone peeps through a tiny little hole. So it's just like I think it depends on the way you play it. It was a very interesting video. It was an interesting video, and like on some it gets the idea of why it's broken as well, which I think was also important. Like he knew exactly why it was broken, and tons of people in his chat were saying, "Oh, it's cheaters," and he was just like, "It ain't cheaters, guys. It's just the netcode doesn't really work properly."
But see, that's the thing. I feel like if they could get the netcode under control, it would really help with the cheating issue, because then there would be these like false accusations. It's like huge, because I just feel like it's just completely like blending the problem.
100%.
And I think even MarkStrom said that in his video.
Yeah, 100%. There was a video on Reddit the other day that I watched, which was like it was called like grimy bug or whatever. I don't know if you saw it, but it was a guy playing in a duo, and actually it was from like his perspective and his friend's perspective and their opponent's perspective. He gets killed by silent shots and with silent footsteps, and his friend gets killed with silent shots as well. Turns out their opponent was streaming, and the guy like comes around the corner, he takes a load of shots, the first guy kills them, comes basically, he should have been on the second player's screen, and he comes around the corner and kills her as well, and she's like, like didn't see anybody, like no one was even on the screen. And so I don't know whether it was like, a whole bunch of lag and it didn't update properly or whatever, but like on his screen, he kills them both fair and square. And on the other two screen, no sound, no shots, they just take damage and they die. And it's in resort. And I was like, oh my God. Like if you were those two, you'd be like, that's 100% hacks. It would have to be.
Yeah.
You did like, there's
Yeah.
no other
Yeah.
conclusion to make there. Like,
Exactly.
you don't even see the dude. Like, you die and you don't even see him, and he's inside with
Right.
you. And you look at his perspective, and it's just like it's completely fair kills. It's just like it's strange. But like people always, people saying like sort the netcode, sort the netcode, and I do wonder if like they are trying to overhaul, because this is the thing. Like, they can't. If Veritas is right, they can't just like make a tweak to this or make the
Yeah,
servers a
this
bit
has to
better,
be a
right? This is a
restructure.
rewrite of like some of the way the netcode
Yeah,
works. This is not easy to do, right? And that's
because
like you don't like
it
don't get me wrong,
even
like you just like we as the player base shouldn't underestimate how hard this is to do. But if it is
yeah,
right, if that is what they're doing, Nikita should come out and say, guys, this is going to take at least 6 months for us to rewrite, or like, oh, it's so big of a project that we're going to really have to think about it. I don't even know what the ETA is. Like, at least then he would say something, because I know he actually did put a post out the other day and
yeah,
say the netcode's in the best place it's been in a long time, and we're working on it,
which
and
is true,
you guys just like hammering on us to fix it doesn't help,
which is also
which
true.
is also true. So I don't know. I can see why people are frustrated, but
But
yeah.
I don't know if it's the translation or the Nikita-isms or what, but I didn't feel like he really addressed it like how you were saying, like very direct. I would prefer a very direct thing because I don't know. I'm not a network engineer,
Mm.
but like I'll just read. I have the post. Let me see if I can find the wording he used. We are constantly working with Unity, constantly implementing new methods, optimizing to increase quality of the network. Um, which just kind of sounds like a generic, you know what I mean? I wanted something a little bit more
Well, that was my point,
detailed.
right? Because like I feel like optimizing, because I do think, after watching Veritas's stuff, I do think he's right. And optimizing the
Mhm.
network just sounds like improving what we already have. Like, I just don't like. I'm no expert on this really, but
Right.
I just feel that if I just can't see, yeah, I don't know. I just can't see how Veritas isn't right. Like, everything looks like it should be, and it would require a
Yeah,
huge
no.
rewrite. And I feel like saying we're optimizing the network is kind of like, I feel like it's under selling what they have to do. I think people would
Yeah.
understand if he came out and said, "Guys, this is a huge issue for us.
Mhm.
Like, we're going to have to rewrite it completely and put it in the ETS servers."
But see, I don't think they want to do that because I suspect that that's gonna negatively affect their investors or whatever financial
I don't
back
think it
end stuff they
matters at
got
this
going
point.
on.
I don't know if it matters too much to them at this point, because like, but then at least people would know. I don't know. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Maybe that's not the problem. Maybe they don't know what the problem is. Maybe they can't figure out what the issue actually is. Maybe they just don't know how to fix it, and they don't want to say. I don't know. Like, if it's possible,
Well,
it's possible that they're just like, or maybe they know that Unity can't support what they're doing, or that it was such a huge rewrite that it's actually physically impossible for them to change it until they get to the next game they make. Maybe.
yeah. I don't know.
It'd be sad if that's true, but like, you can
Yeah, I mean,
a game that gets written from the ground up. Like, some of this stuff might just be hardwired in.
it's still a good game, but like you have to learn to accept these faults that Tarkov has.
Mm.
Like it's really brutal.
Yeah,
It's really brutal. Because not only do you have the difficulty of the game, but you have like the unoptimized, mess that is Tarkov. So
yeah, exactly. And this is what MarkStrom's saying about it. The reason why a lot of people don't think it's a problem at the beginning is because they don't actually know why they're dying. It might
yep,
be all sorts of
yep.
reasons, right? And at the start, you don't even know that the netcode is a bit wonky, and you probably wouldn't even notice because you don't know what it's supposed to be like. Because I don't know. I think, like, as a random like side point, I see these posts about the netcode, and sometimes I feel it very occasionally, but I would say 99% of the time, for me, it's fine and actually works pretty well. And I don't know whether certain systems, because this is kind of the same with a lot of other things, right? Like, certain systems only work well when everything's perfect in its own perfect network conditions,
Mhm.
and then the really, really good systems work in spite of bad network conditions or bad lag or whatever, and there's compensation for it and all this kind of stuff.
Yes, and see
Yeah, whereas like, so I'm running out of like a fiber line here with super, super high speed internet with low latency, and for
right.
me it's pretty much okay like most of the time. And I don't know how much of it is down to people's individual connections too, and the fact that maybe Tarkov is actually okay if you're running on a LAN or something and you're right next to the server. But as soon as
Yes.
there's issues, because they haven't built it like CS have, or COD or whatever, they don't necessarily have as much of those interpolation and compensation systems as well, which
Right,
means you wouldn't
right.
necessarily notice it as much if that was the case.
Because
I don't know how much of it
if
is
I
that.
understand the system correctly, it can be abused if you have a poor connection or if you have a program that simulates a poor connection, you know? Because it's client side authoritative. Like, for example, I was playing in a party and my physical game was stuttering. So on my teammate's screen, I was running in place and then I just warp in front. And they're like, "Whoa, this server's lagging."
Yeah.
Well, it was just me. It wasn't really the server. But because it's client authoritative, it's like the game is hitching. So whatever its last thing that was sending to the server is just like still at this thing, and then all of a sudden it updates to this new position that I'm at. And the way they got set up, it's like you're saying, double sided because there's no um this like server authoritative section because it's like dependent also on your connection. The other thing I noticed is one time we were playing on a server on interchange and we were moving and all of a sudden I just teleported back to the escalators. I'm like, what the heck? Have you ever had that happen before?
I have only had that happen a long time ago. And that's see, in the thing about that is that that's weird
Yes, because
because
that would be server authoritative, right?
exactly.
Which I was like, I was so confused.
Yeah. Now I don't know. I'm trying to think what that would potentially mean. Was that recently? Was that really recently?
Yeah, maybe like
Hmm.
3 weeks ago, and it was like the server I knew as soon as that was happening because it was happening like 3 times in a row, I knew the server was scuffed, and I went and pushed the guy and, I hit him 15 times on my screen, and my post
Yeah.
screen was 0 hits.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure. Like the only way that I could think that would potentially happen is maybe they've got some mechanisms in there, which is like if you move too much in a certain space of time, it like just unwinds what you did or something. I don't know.
I don't know.
If there's like a connection blocker for too long or something. But yeah, I don't know. It's man, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do about it. But like as I said, like for me, if people didn't talk about it so much
Mhm.
on the forums and on Reddit, and I don't know how much I would notice. I really don't. I don't really play that way most of the time. And I think it really, yeah, as I said, it disproportionately affects people who are playing like close range, Call of Duty style fights, and they play an awful lot as well. And for me, I'm not sure how much I would notice it. Like it glitches a
Yeah, I
bit, but
mean, I feel like I only noticed it more at the beginning of a raid. Um, yeah, even then, I don't even think and that's just my teammates, like, there was one time on Woods back in the old patch where I got on the hill at the start of raid and I saw the guy and I was lining up the shot and then he just like stutters and he just like starts teleporting and then I can
yeah,
see
that
him standing
sucks.
still looking at me and I was like, "Oh, I'm he shot and hit my stomach." I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
okay."
yeah.
But
See, that is it is annoying. I don't know, the thing you said about like being able to abuse it, like the thing that I took away from like Veritas's thing a while back
mhm.
was that it kind of works both ways. In that, if you're like the Peaker's advantage thing is like if you have a bad connection and you're already leaning out around a corner, somebody can lean and shoot you and lean back before you even see it, and vice. But then that's like the same the other way around as well. So like
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it'll
a
make
double
you
edge.
yeah like
Yeah.
yeah it'll make you stutter a bit. I think the stuttering thing actually probably is an advantage because if you have a bad connection to the server and you do that kind of like lag stutter, it can be quite hard to track you. But at the same time, I can't remember if it works this way actually, but if you manage to hit somebody like that and your client says, yes, you did hit them, I think you do, don't you? I can't actually remember. I can't remember whether that happens or not. Like if you're lagging and I hit you on my screen,
Mhm.
because sometimes people have said that they've like reported blood, but then the servers said that it wasn't necessarily a shot. I'm not sure. It's tricky. And there was a really good, like, I'm gonna have to rewatch Veritas's thing. It was like a month ago now, and I can't remember the finer details of some of his takeaways. But I would just be fascinated to know if Nikita ever actually spoke to him any more about it, to say like, yes, it
Yeah,
is client authoritative and whatever. Because like the excerpt that he put of that other, there was like a dev video about, and I think it was Overwatch that he put in, and it was like, here's what it would look like if we did it client authoritative, and it looked like Tarkov. And that was the bit that cinched it for me. I was like, I know he had a big disclaimer on it and saying, we do not do this in our live servers, FYI, because it doesn't work. And that was the part that fascinated me, because I was just like, this is it. This
yeah,
is it. So I was
yeah,
like,
no.
man, this is it. He's nailed it.
I last I heard, he sent it to Nikita. Nikita said, "Hey, it was a good video. I'll pass it on to the network team," and that was
Yeah.
kinda it.
So I don't know. I
Oh,
don't
well.
know. I don't know.
Let's see.
Anyway,
We wrap
that's,
it up?
I think so. That's probably enough
Yeah.
for one day.
Dude, this was a great podcast. We didn't really cover all the detailed notes I put down, which is totally fine by me, you know? So
That's
I
okay.
love the direction I went. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's
so
all right. It's kind of, it's just guidelines anyway, isn't it? It's guidelines.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah. Alright, guys. Well, that's gonna wrap up the show. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Cool. Catch you later.